Donald Trump accelerated the development of the sixth-generation American fighter F-47. The F-47 Thunderstorm fighter is one of the most ambitious and conceptual projects in the history of the U.S. military aviation. This sixth-generation aircraft, being developed by Boeing Corporation as part of the Next-Generation Air Dominance program, is designed not only to replace the aging F-22 Raptor, but also to radically rethink the very concept of air superiority, moving it from the era of individual platforms to the era of integrated combat systems, where the boundaries between manned and unmanned aircraft are finally blurred. The history of the NGAD program goes back to the early 2010s, when the leadership of the U.S. Air Force realized that even such an outstanding fighter as the F-22 Raptor would not be able to remain the foundation of air superiority indefinitely. The rapid development of Chinese and Russian air defense systems, the emergence of their own fifth-generation fighter jets, and advances in radar technology meant that the advantages of the F-22, which seemed revolutionary at the time of its creation, were gradually eroding. The NGAD program was conceived as a response to these challenges, not just a new aircraft, but an entire ecosystem of interconnected combat assets capable of acting as a single organism. It is noteworthy that experimental aircraft under this program have been flying since 2020, but the official designation of the F-47 and the contract with Boeing were approved only in March 2025, indicating a lengthy and thorough selection process for technical solutions and a contractor. The very choice of Boeing as the main contractor has become one of the most discussed decisions in recent years in the defense industry. For decades, the development of advanced fighter jets has been a virtual monopoly of Lockheed Martin, which created both the F-22 and the F-35 Lightning II. The transfer of such a large and strategically significant contract to Boeing marked a major shift in the Pentagon's industrial policy. On the one hand, this decision reflects the desire of the Ministry of Defense to maintain a competitive environment among defense contractors and to avoid excessive dependence on one company. On the other hand, the contract literally breathed new life into Boeing's defense aviation division, which was going through difficult times after a number of problems with other programs. The main production is concentrated at factories in St. Louis, Missouri, where the company has significant experience in creating combat aircraft, accumulated since the days of McDonnell Douglas. In terms of design, the F-47 represents a qualitative leap compared to its predecessors. The fighter is made according to a tailless horizontal scheme with an integrated wing and fuselage, which in itself is a departure from the traditional layout of tactical fighters. The absence of vertical tail, which is one of the main sources of radar visibility, and the smooth fusion of the wing with the aircraft body ensure an extremely low radar signature. However, the F-47's stealth technologies go far beyond simply reducing the effective scattering area.
It is planned to use multispectral stealth solutions that minimize the visibility of the aircraft not only in the radar but also in the infrared, acoustic, and electronic ranges. This means that the F-47 will be more difficult to detect by almost any existing method, from radars to thermal imagers and electronic intelligence systems. Moreover, the possibility of using active stealth systems capable of dynamically changing the radiation pattern of an aircraft depending on a specific threat or the requirements of the current mission is being discussed. If implemented, this technology will transform masking from a passive design feature into an active tool controlled by onboard computers in real time. The F-47 power plant also represents a fundamentally new solution. The aircraft is equipped with a next-generation adaptive engine developed apparently on the basis of the Next-Generation Adaptive Propulsion program. The key feature of this engine is its variable cycling, which allows it to switch between different operating modes depending on current needs. In maximum performance mode, the engine provides speeds in excess of 2 Mach, which is more than 1,500 miles per hour. In economy mode, it significantly reduces fuel consumption, increasing flight range and patrol duration. In addition, the engine is able to control its own thermal footprint, which is crucial for survival in conditions where the enemy has modern infrared detection systems. The claimed range of the F-47 exceeds 1,000 nautical miles, which is about 1,850 kilometers, an indicator that significantly exceeds the capabilities of most modern tactical fighters and reflects the specific requirements of a potential theater of operations in the Indo-Pacific region, where the distances between bases and conflict zones can be enormous. It was the focus on the Indo-Pacific region that largely determined the appearance of the F-47. This is a space where a potential adversary in the person of China has deployed the most powerful layered air defense systems capable of creating zones of restriction and prohibition of access for hundreds of kilometers from the coast. Only an aircraft combining exceptional stealth, long range, long supersonic cruising speed, and the ability to operate autonomously without constant communication with ground control points can operate in such scenarios, as penetrating deep enemy-controlled airspace, completing a combat mission, and returning to base without detection. However, perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of the F-47 is not its flight characteristics or stealth technology, but its role as the central control node in a system combining manned and unmanned platforms. The system of systems concept embedded in the NGAD program assumes that the F-47 will not operate alone, but as part of a link that includes several unmanned aerial vehicles, the so-called collaborative combat aircraft. These drones, controlled by artificial intelligence and coordinated by an F-47 pilot, are capable of performing a wide range of tasks, from electronic warfare and reconnaissance to carrying additional weapons and creating false targets for enemy air defense systems. In this system, the F-47 pilot acts not so much as a pilot in the traditional sense, but rather as a mission commander coordinating the actions of an entire network of semi-autonomous platforms. The F-47's digital cockpit and combat control system are deeply integrated with artificial intelligence, which takes on a significant portion of the cognitive load. The onboard AI is able to dynamically prioritize threats, process data from multiple sensors at speeds beyond human perception, and adapt tactics in real time based on an analysis of the current situation. In fact, artificial intelligence becomes the second member of the crew, which not only helps the pilot make decisions, but is also able to independently control subordinate drones, distributing tasks between them and correcting their actions without direct human intervention. This approach makes it possible to achieve air superiority not at the expense of the gross technical superiority of an individual aircraft, but through information dominance, tactical flexibility, and the ability to instantly adapt to changing combat conditions. The financial side of the F-47 program is no less controversial than its technical aspects. The estimated cost of a single production fighter is between $300 and $325 million, making it one of the most expensive combat aircraft in history. The initial engineering and production development contract with Boeing exceeded $20 billion. These figures inevitably raise questions about the appropriateness of such large-scale expenditures, especially when the military budget is under constant pressure from other priorities. Nevertheless, representatives of the U.S. Air Force argue that despite the high initial cost, the production and maintenance of the F-47 in the long run will be cheaper than the similar performance of the F-22 Raptor, which was discontinued due to the exorbitant cost of operation. It is planned to purchase at least 185 F-47 fighters, which approximately corresponds to the size of the existing F-22 fleet and allows for sufficient numbers to solve strategic tasks. The political context of the F-47 program also deserves attention. Some observers associate the choice of the F-47 designation with the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump, who personally announced the new fighter during his second term. The NGAD program has gone through a difficult political path. According to reports, it was temporarily suspended during the Biden administration, but was resumed and accelerated after Trump's return to the White House. The development of the F-47 takes place in the context of the intense rivalry between the United States and China for the creation of the first full-fledged operational fighter of the sixth generation. China is actively pursuing its own programs in this area, and the race for technological leadership in combat aviation has become one of the key dimensions of the global strategic confrontation.
The start of full-fledged operation of the F-47 is expected between 2028 and 2030, depending on the results of flight tests, and the balance of power in global military aviation for the coming decades will largely depend on the success of this program. What do you think about this?